Jamie's stepdaughter, Joan, is a seer, and she can see into the future and see when people are about to die. Comte Saint-Germain is back. He was believed to be dead previously. He is also a time traveler and a dabbler in magic. So what's his agenda, and what is he doing back in this time period? This story is set in Paris in 1778, and ultimately its storylines are going to collide. If this is your first time visiting my vlog, you can follow my entire book review series, mainly Outlander by Gabaldon, at my Outlander World Tour series. I will leave the link below for you to follow, and you will be able to start at the beginning. I will be updating these videos several times a week, so please check back regularly. Now, before I tell you more about The Space Between by Gabaldon, unfortunately I'm going to have to do my laundry. It is important that you get your timing right when doing your laundry on these cruise ships, because all hell can break loose. I call them the laundry wars. So today's laundry day. Now this can be quite stressful on one of these cruise boats because there are limited amount of washing machines and hundreds of people trying to get their clothes washed. Now the trick to this is to come on the off-peak times, especially when people are at shows. Okay, lucky enough for us, our machines are on our floor. Now it's just a matter of trying to find a machine. So as I said, we're quite lucky. We've got a laundry on our floor. Now normally there's a laundry on every other floor. And we've got 4 washing machines and 4 tumble dryers. Now, as I've said before, sometimes these machines cause a fight. And there has been occasion when people have thrown chocolate into the machines because they've got upset because people have taken their washing out of the machines. So this is one of the few cruise boats I've come across where they actually give you the detergent for free. Normally you have to buy it in one of the little shops here and it costs you £1 to go. But it's completely free on this ship. Now, Jamie Fraser's stepdaughter, Joan MacKimmie, is actually leaving Scotland and she's travelling to France to join a nunnery. Now, if you remember, Jamie was actually briefly married to Laoghaire. That's a mouthful. It's when you see the spelling of her name, it's difficult to pronounce. Every time I try and say her name, I just have to remember the word fairy. It's the only way I can remember her name. Now, you will know that Laoghaire was a complete handful. She was a nightmare. Now, Joan is actually sailing across the channel with Michael Murray, and she's sailing on one of his own ships. Now, Michael is actually returning to France after recently become a widower himself and after the death of his father Ian. Now, Michael, who is a wine merchant, takes on the responsibility of escorting Joan across to the convent where she wants to join as a nun. Now, along the way, the two of them form a very strong bond. Now, the reason why Joan wants to join the convent is not so much that she's a believer. It is actually that she's scared. Joan actually hears voices in her head and she hears people talking to her about the future, and this frightens her. She thinks that if she joins the convent, then these voices will go away. She also has visions of people that are about to die, and this frightens the hell out of her. Now, unfortunately, the Comte Saint-Germain, now I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but he gets to hear about Joan, and he starts tracking her down. Now, the reason he starts tracking her down is because of her link to Claire Fraser, Madame La Blanche. Now, it seems that this guy has got some very strange powers of his own. Now, poor Michael is sucked up into this whole mess, and he is fighting for the very soul of Joan. Now, on paper, it seems that a relationship between Michael and Joan is very unlikely. However, the two of them became very close and a relationship started to form. Now, the reason this happened for the two of them is for 2 completely different reasons. So that's my clothes in the machine. Now, the wash time takes approximately 45 minutes. So I better be back in 45 minutes or I'm in trouble. Because sometimes people get so impatient They open up these washers and dryers and they just pull your wet clothes out and they just dump them on the floor. So please take this tip from me quite seriously, because if you leave your washing in the machine for much longer than its time allocated, you may just come back and find it on the floor, or even worse, find that somebody's thrown chocolate into the dryer because they've got so upset. Now sometimes you feel like you're dealing with children on these ships. Yeah. Right, my 45 minutes are up. Better go rescue my washing before it gets dumped on the floor, and hopefully I will find a tumble dryer that's free. They are only 4, so let's hope I'm in luck. There's at least one machine free, so survive today. Once again, this is a very short book and leaves more questions to be answered, especially about Claire Fraser. I feel that the plotline must continue, and it's a shame that this book wasn't longer. Just as your interest is piqued, the storyline ends and just leaves you hanging. I can't wait, and I really need to get on to book 8 to find out more what happens. Now, once again, as with most of Diana Gabaldon's short stories, if you've never read Outlander itself, there's not much point reading this. You are going to get completely lost. Most of the story that unfolds follows the plot lines and characters of book 2. So if you haven't read Outlander 1 and 2, I suggest that you read them before you read this novella. As well as that, if you want to have a greater understanding of the characters in these books, then I strongly recommend that you read this little novella before you read book 7 and 8. So I will recap. You need to read book 1 and 2 first before reading the short story, and you definitely need to read it before book 7 and 8. These books are really intended if you're a die-hard Outlander fan and want to get more of the backstory of some of the main characters. If you're an Outlander fan, then these short novellas play an important part in filling in some of the histories and storylines of so many of the major and lesser characters in Outlander. Just to finish up, while Outlander is a sci-fi time travel historical fiction, this particular novella seems to be jumping in the realm of fantasy, and I don't know really where it's going. You never know, all sorts of mythical creatures might start jumping out from this book.